The 5 HOP principles, otherwise known as human and organisational performance. If you're in the safety community, particularly the New View or the Safety Differently community, the 5 HOP foundation principles, they should be your bread and butter. They're a fairly new but extremely simple yet valuable set of principles brought about over the past 10 years or so, and by the likes of pioneers in the safety game like Dr. Todd, Conklin and Sidney, Dekker. They've been helping anyone in the safety community do safety and capacity for work done well in a much better way, and I certainly live and work by these new set of principles. As it turns out, when I say I live and work by these principles, I've also found that using them for raising a family also has some benefits. So let's take a look. Here's a reminder that our vision for Career Fusion is to build great people so that you can go do extraordinary things. So I hope these little nuggets of information may inspire you to go away and do whatever you can to build your amazing place to work. And in this case today, help you build an amazing family. My name is David East and this is Career Fusion TV. Safety in the workplace is a dynamic and challenging activity that requires constant learning and adaptation. As safety professionals, we play a significant role in shaping the outcomes of work done well in our organisations, and it's really crucial to approach it with humility and a learning mindset, right? Parenting, as it turns out, is also a challenging yet rewarding adventure that requires constant learning and adaptation. As parents, we play a significant role in shaping our children's lives, and it's crucial to approach it with the same humility and a learning mindset. I've found that the principles of HOP are extremely simple and are very easy to apply in just about any situation. As a parent of 3, with another one on the way, I've actually discovered that the same principles actually have a massive amount of crossover and relevance for raising children due mainly to this simplicity. So I actually use them in all the time. They're great. So for those that are curious, what are the HOP principles? Number 1, error is normal. Number 2, blame fixes nothing. Number 3, systems or context drives behaviour. Number 4, learning and improving is vital. And number 5, a leader's response to failures matters. Like I said, they are very simple in principle, yet extremely valuable and rich when you start digging into the details. Principle number 1, error is normal. In the world of safety, it is really well known that your workers, they're going to make errors. In fact, error is so normal that every good system is designed to deal with what happens when a human error does occur. Now, I'm going to go with a slight language adjustment, however, here, and move away from the term error, and I'm going to change it to mistake. Now, I think for a kid, the term human error may be a little bit too university for them, so I'm going to move it to mistakes are normal. I think that's more relevant. Also, because I think saying, boo-boos are normal or stuff-ups are normal may not particularly fit in with the catchy first principle design. So, mistakes are normal. Now, in our pursuit of trying to raise the perfect family, we often forget that kids making mistakes is an inherent part of their learning process. We need to encourage our children to take risks and explore those new experiences without the fear of failure. We need to embrace mistakes as valuable learning opportunities that can teach your child resilience, problem solving, and the importance of perseverance. By fostering a safe space for making mistakes, you're going to be empowering your child to grow and develop to their full potential. Principle number 2, blame fixes nothing. Let's have another language adjustment here. I'm going to change that to blame and criticism fixes nothing, and I'll tell you why. So in the workplace, once again, blame fixes nothing rings 100% true. Blaming someone when an incident occurs, it's not only unfair, it just doesn't fix the problem. When something bad happens or there's been an accident, if we stop and blame the last person that touched it, we are missing so much valuable data on what is actually missing or has failed in the system, and that's led to someone being potentially injured or maybe worse. We miss an opportunity to learn. Now, a great term that Dr. Todd Conklin uses is we can blame and punish, or we can learn and improve. We cannot do both. That's really valuable here. And think about it with your children. If we start blaming people, we're not learning. And if we start punishing people, we are not improving. So, how do we translate that into a family situation, like into your kitchen when your kid spills their Cocoa Pops all over the floor? What happens if you lose your cool and yell at them? What happens if you've allowed a culture within your family where it's okay for the older kid to instantly blame their little brother or sister, even though they had nothing to do with it? Let me assure you, it is within our genes. It's a primal human characteristic to find a scapegoat when something's gone wrong. And it's especially true when you're young. Like, think about politicians. They like to blame each other and they find a new scapegoat every day. So it just rings true to the primal human characteristic trait, doesn't it? But it doesn't have to be this way. It takes a lot of conscious effort to control the narrative when something unplanned happens. The Cocoa Pops all over the floor, that's just one example. And I'm sure you can instantly think of about a million more from your own experiences where finding someone to blame seemed completely normal. That's okay. Now, as someone responsible for raising kids, it is within your power to control a narrative that doesn't care who is responsible. You ask yourself, can you make it a learning opportunity? Can you keep your cool with a high level of emotional intelligence and control the emotional response of your child in that instance? The fact is, you probably can't. You probably can't stop them from crying. You probably can't stop them from yelling. You probably can't stop their fear response. Their brain is still developing. Researchers these days are saying that the brain is about 90 to 95% developed as a child, and it isn't fully developed until they're in their mid-20s, and it's slightly earlier for females. The prefrontal cortex, the front of the brain, is the last to fully develop. Now, this controls planning, decision-making, memory sort of stuff, right? As a result, the amygdala response of fight, flight, or freeze, it's different to an adult because a child's brain doesn't have access to that full database of experience and information that an adult does. Their primal response is potentially going to be one of fear. They're going to be scared when something goes wrong. If you, as a parent or a caregiver, can expect that and manage it with empathy, love, and support, then you are going to have a win-win situation with your child, leaving you to save the blaming and criticism for the person that may cut you off on the highway one day. So what about criticism? When your child makes a mistake or faces challenges, resisting the urge to criticize them and instead focusing on some constructive feedback and offering constructive guidance on how they can improve for the next time. For the next time they're carrying the bowl of Cocoa Pops through the kitchen. Right? By adopting a supportive and understanding approach, you get to create an environment where your child feels really comfortable seeking help and learning from their experiences. Remember, it's not about assigning blame, but it's about guiding them towards self-improvement. The really important part in there is you get to make the choice to deliver with that emotional intelligence so that you can help control their emotions to a point. They're going to cry, they're going to get upset. A good hug, a solid hug, tell them everything's going to be okay, works wonders when it comes to children. It's all they need. They just need an attachment. They need to know that they're understood, and they need to know that they're supported. And you will have wins with your child. Because the opposite reaction creates a lot of problems, but it also has long-term effects on their brain development and their life as an adult. Principle number 3. Systems or context drives behaviour. Another language change, because we're not working in a workplace. It's not a system. But what about this? What about environment drives behaviour? The environment that you raise your children in drives their behaviour. Okay? Think about Forrest Gump and Jenny. Okay, now Forrest Gump, he lived in a very, very supportive environment. His mother loved him to bits. He turned out to be a wonderful human being because he was supported as a child. His girlfriend Jenny, on the other hand, was raised in an abusive environment by an alcoholic father, and she turned out quite the opposite. She turned to drugs. There was a lot of mental health problems, that kind of thing. It's just an analogy. It's just a movie, but it rings true completely. The environment that you raise your children in drives their behaviour forever. Like I said, the hot principle for this one is systems or context drives behaviour. Think of it this way. When you go to work, you like to get there, you like to turn your computer on, you might grab a cup of coffee from the breakout room, then you might sit down and enjoy it while you start checking what's going on today. You might check emails or your calendar or whatever it is that you do. Okay. What happens if when you get there, your computer's broken and it won't log in? Or the primary software tool that you use, it's down and it doesn't work and you need to ring help desk to get it fixed. Let's say on top of that, the coffee machine is broken, you can't make your cup of coffee. Okay, this is starting to be a really bad day, isn't it? Right? Now, what's your behavioural reaction going to be? What's it going to be like? I know what mine's going to be. It's going to be, this is crap. I hate this place. Why can't we get this stuff fixed? You know, how can they expect us to work under these horrible conditions? You know, it's that kind of thing. So your behaviour is going to be relative to the system that you're working under. It's going to change because of those things that aren't working. But what if you have a great system where failures like that are fixed quickly or they're anticipated, and you know there's preventative maintenance put in place so it doesn't really affect the daily role of people rocking up to work in the morning. They don't have that issue, right? Those preventative measures are taken to prevent those kinds of failures, and they just don't affect the frontline worker, right? Now that's a system I like to work in. I would love to work in that. And that's a perfect world scenario. But I hope you get my drift when it comes to systems and context drive behaviour. Another way, think of it, your car. If you've got an old car, it's an old clapper, it barely starts in the morning, it leaks oil, it blows smoke, okay? Your behaviour is going to be affected by that car, okay? You're going to be like, come on baby, just start for me, let's go one more time, all right? And when it starts, you're going to be like, yes, I can't believe it started. And then as you're driving down the street and you're blowing smoke out the back and everyone's looking at you really weird, you're like, okay, your behaviour is being adjusted. However, if you've got a brand new car, you push the button, starts every time, the aircon works, you know, the Apple AirPlay plugs straight in, there's no problem, it's bliss. Your behaviour is 100% going to be different. Now let's have a quick chat about the human side of systems or context or environment drives behaviour. What if you go to work and your work environment is not supportive? No one likes each other, you know, there's no respect. The boss or your leaders or your management chain, they're all narcissists. You know, what if it's completely okay to rock up to work under the influence of drugs or alcohol and no one cares? How's your behaviour and your performance going to be affected by that? The environment in which your child grows plays a significant role in their behaviour and overall development too. If there's drugs and alcohol or even domestic violence, there's every chance that your environment is going to affect your children and their overall behaviour. However, if there's a caring, compassionate, there's empathy, there's a learning culture, it's a healthy environment, your child's behaviour is definitely going to trend towards being a positive one. By creating a nurturing and positive environment that promotes healthy habits, strong values and respect for others and surrounding your child with positive role models, that provides them with opportunities for growth. It fosters a sense of belonging and security. You can influence your child's behaviour and you can help them thrive. And so the environment that you raise your kids in drives their behaviour. Principle number 4, learning and improving is vital. Learning from incidents, learning from everyday work, talking to your team and asking them what they need in order to create a safe work environment that has the capacity to fail, but fail in a successful manner so that no one really gets hurt when something bad happens. Now that's what learning is all about. That is a very quick synopsis of what like learning and improving is vital. but that's what it's about. It is super important for any organisation, no matter what you do, to have a learning culture and strive towards that operational excellence. But how do we make it happen at home, and why is it important? Now, children have different learning styles and preferences, of course. Everybody's different. But by tailoring your approach to their individual needs and providing them with a variety of learning opportunities, we're enabling a learning culture that will set them up for a lifelong love and yearning for knowledge. In that case, learning has got to be fun. It's got to be challenging, and it's got to be good for them. Now, when something goes wrong in your house, whether it's spilt Cocoa Pops or the kids drawn on the wall with the crayons, if we can consciously frame negative reactions as learning opportunities, we get to cultivate personal growth and resilience. And what this allows you to do is navigate future challenges with much greater wisdom and much greater maturity. By shifting our perspective to the best learning method, you get to extract meaningful insights. You get to develop better coping strategies, and you get the opportunity to enhance your level and your child's level of emotional intelligence. When we can view negative reactions as learning opportunities, we foster a growth mindset that encourages us to embrace challenges as stepping stones towards self-improvement rather than roadblocks to our progress. So the key point out of learning and improving is vital. When something goes wrong, frame it to the best of your ability as a learning mission, not as a fear mission. That's really important. Hot principle number 5, a leader's response to failure matters. I'm definitely going to take the leader's bit out of this because you don't have a leader in your house. Sure, you have a figure that is effectively in charge, but this is an adult's response to emotions matters. Everyone who has a stake in raising the children in your house, and when I say children, I'm talking every day from day 0 to young adults in their early 20s, and maybe even older, right? Everyone who has a responsibility to raise those children, your response to their emotions matters. I've also changed it, obviously, from failure to emotions. And the reason for that is we don't want to frame anything that happens as a failure. You know, that language instantly may raise the impression that your kids are failures, and they're not. We know that. But when something does go wrong in their lives, and society at large may see that as a failure, as parents and caregivers, we need to see them for what happens immediately after that event. And that will be some sort of emotional response. It'll be a positive one or a negative one. Our response to that emotion is what really, really matters, and that's what we're going to talk about for a sec. Now, if you read any textbook, it will tell you that children often struggle to manage their emotions effectively. As a parent or caregiver, your response to their emotions is crucial in teaching them healthy emotional regulation. We need to create a safe space for your child to express their feelings without judgment or dismissal. By validating their emotions, by teaching them empathy, we provide them with the tools to cope with really difficult emotions. By modeling healthy emotional responses, you equip your child with essential skills to navigate life's challenges. This is, of course, completely accurate. Now, what does it mean? Why is that the case? And how do we deal with the large emotions? Let's start with a normal daily occurrence. When something significant occurs, right, whether it be going back to dropping the Cocoa Pops and spilling milk all over the floor, or a kid spreading their banana yogurt all over the couch, or a toddler drawing their crayon all over the wall, or a teenager forgetting to do their homework or leaving an assignment to the last minute, or as they get older, a teenager wagging school, hanging out with the wrong crowd, generally trying different things and getting up to no good, or even a teenager on their P plates crashing mum's car. Our response as adults is all that matters to them. This is where a basic understanding of our fear response mechanism is important to understand, and trust me, I will give it in basic terms because it's all I really know, to be honest with you. Now, through a million years of conservation, innovation and mutation, our brains have become a patchwork of old and new systems, many with different languages, operating systems and processing speeds. As adults, our amygdala response to fear has not changed very much over that cycle of brain development over thousands of years. The amygdala, which is a critical item within the hippocampus section of the brain, is what gets activated when we are confronted with something unexpected. The amygdala is what sets off our fight, flight and freeze response. It acts extremely quickly, within a few milliseconds in fact, and it even acts before our conscious brain does. It allows a really quick response, but sometimes that response that you get may not be the one you particularly want to show to the world. Sometimes it might be a little bit embarrassing. So place yourself in each one of your child's shoes. When they've done something they perhaps shouldn't have done, our initial response may vary depending on a lot of factors on that day. It may depend on your mood, your patience, your attitude to life in general, right? Now, while it may be easier and it rolls with a natural response to something going bad, we may lose our temper, all right? And you may instantly have a fight response. That's okay, it's completely normal. But it may result in you yelling at your child, no matter the surroundings. And that's something you may regret later, and it's something that the child will remember really deeply for quite a long time. Another response you might have a flight response. Who's ever seen like a parent in a busy shopping centre like completely freak out when their kid has a tantrum and starts rolling around on the floor, or they knock a row of cans on the ground, or makes, you get this orchestra of unwanted noise, and they oh my goodness, they freak out. They quickly grab their kids' hands while they're yelling at them, and they just want to leave the scene out of total embarrassment. Okay, now that's a flight response. Just get me out of here. I don't want to be here. Also, completely normal. It happens all the time. Another way you can respond, you can freeze, right? You've been compromised by something going completely bad, you don't know what to do, and your amygdala set off, like, it has a bit of a meltdown. The scientific term, you have an amygdala hijack. Now with the fight and flight response, what happens is your amygdala releases epinephrines into your body, right? Which, big picture, it gets more blood to your extremities. Oh yeah, it sends more blood and oxygen to your arms and legs, and it sets you up to literally be able to fight or run. Okay? The freeze response, however, is a failure for this to occur. You don't get the epinephrine, you don't get the adrenaline, you don't get the rush of blood and essential oxygen to your arms and legs. It doesn't happen, and you just freeze. Okay, that's your amygdala hijack. You don't know what to do. It may take some time to get over. It might take a few seconds. It might take a minute, but eventually you will recover. Okay, now that's the freeze response. It can happen to anyone, anytime, any day, when something fairly big or something startles them happens. Okay. Now the most important part to remember about an adult's fear response, or their startle response to something going very bad, is that besides being completely random depending on the person in the situation, and besides the fact that not everyone has our shit together, and the most important point to remember is that a kid's response to the same event happening will be completely different for a number of reasons. Firstly, and most importantly, their brain isn't fully developed. We talked about that. The female brain isn't fully developed until the early 20s, from 19 to the early 20s, while us boys need to wait a little bit longer, well into our 20s, in fact. When I say our brains aren't fully developed until this stage, I'm primarily talking about the frontal lobe, the prefrontal cortex, and as we said, it's our primary decision-making zone. And plan, that's where we plan things. It's where we draw on memories and plan our day, plan life, okay? Now this late development 100% worked for me, as I can hand on heart tell you that I made a lot of decisions in my teenage and early 20 years that weren't very well thought out. I can guarantee you, trust me, I really enjoyed those years. I had a great time, I had a blast. I just did a lot of dumb shit. In fact, the term that works best for me, the first 50 years of childhood are always the hardest. So we've been reminded about the very basics of how brain development works for young children, teenagers and young adults. We need to have an understanding of what their response to failure is going to be like. It's going to be completely nuts, right? It's not going to be what you expect, what you prefer, and what doesn't cause you years of embarrassment. We're going to have to expect some pretty huge emotions, especially with younger children. Now I'm going to give you a quick quote from one of my favourite books. It's called Why Therapy Works by Louis Cozolino. It's a great book and I love it. I've read it a number of times. And a shout out to Ian Carts. Thanks for lending it to me because it changed my life. It's amazing. Thank you. Now here's the quote. During the first year of life, parent-child interactions are mainly positive, affectionate, and playful. As infants grow into toddlers, their increasing motor abilities, impulsivity, and exploratory urges lead them to plunge headfirst into danger. The unconditional affection of the first year gives way to loud exclamations of no, or don't, or stop, and a shift in the use of the child's name from a term of affection to a command or a warning. Now, this parent-to-child warning mechanism seen in many animals is designed to make children freeze in their tracks in order to protect them from predators and other dangers. This freeze response is reflected within the autonomic nervous system by a rapid transition from sympathetic curiosity to parasympathetic inhibition. So when a parent yells at a child with best intentions of protecting them by saying stop or don't do that, we are preventing their curious nature and installing an inhibiting system that prevents learning and development. So, as an adult, how do you deal with that? This is where you may have a choice. While your amygdala response is instant and doesn't necessarily rely on all of the great information and experience that you have waiting in your prefrontal cortex, your response immediately after that is completely within your control. Now let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a loadmaster and I've been a flight engineer in the Air Force. So I've had the great opportunity to fly around in planes for the best part of my life. It's been wonderful. One of the things we do as aircrew is we get trained in how to deal with emergency situations all of the time. Okay. Now pilots up the front of the plane, they're flying the plane. Now they go one step further and they're trained to deal with the startle response. And this is pilots worldwide. The startle response is really important. It's the startle response. What is it? It's the one where everything is going along just swell. Life's grand. You're flying along. Everything is well. Then suddenly, bang! Something big happens. It might be an engine failure. It might be a fire alarm. It might be an engine fire. You might have hit a massive turbulence pocket. You might have hit a bird. Now, these are all things that startle a pilot. What's their response going to be like? Now, history tells us that some pilots have actually done some pretty silly things after that startle. They've shut down the wrong engine. They've left the plane with no usable engine power or thrust because they shut down that wrong engine. They've overreacted in some way and made the situation worse. And the planes have crashed. It has happened so many times. So these days they train pilots and aircrew to deal with startle. What to do when something goes bang. Now, do you want to know what it is? It's pretty tricky. All right, the first steps. Are you ready for this? All right. Here's the first thing you do when you are startled. You do nothing. You do absolutely nothing. You don't say anything. You definitely try not to scream. You don't pull the fire handle. You don't grab your kid by the arm and run away. You don't yell at them. You just breathe. You just breathe. In fact, let's get really scientific. If you take a good solid 3 to 5 big deep breaths, something magical really happens within your body. What does it do? Now, besides giving you a lot of time to think, you've just bought yourself 5 to 10 seconds. Now, that's a lot of time to ponder what your response is going to be, what your next reaction is going to be. Now, it also allows your blood, and therefore your critical oxygen supply to your body, go to the places that Mother Nature has deemed best. Now, primarily, it has oxygenated your brain. It's sent a bunch of oxygen to your brain where it's required for you to make some good decisions. Those few breaths have given you the best opportunity to deal with whatever your child has just done to trigger your response. So this is where it's completely within your control to make a choice where an adult's response to emotions matter. Now, another very important aspect of why an adult's response to emotions matters, From the HOP principle of a leader's response to failure matters, this plays out in the work environment where if something goes wrong and a leader loses their cool and responds in a very bad way, now that sets up a very complex range of conditions for the team that is lucky enough to work under that person. They may see that leader as toxic or narcissistic, which of course leads to all kinds of workplace drama. The leader's response may lead to no one willing to go to them with their real problems anymore because it just didn't work out last time they did it. So they're not going to report any problems. They're not going to go to ask them for help. And they're definitely not going to go to them when things are going right. Okay. Now the same thing goes for parenting. If your response to your child doing something wrong is generally a bad one that sets up some sort of fear response in your child, they are going to remember that. It's locked in their developing memory. And they don't understand why. And they don't understand why they're always getting yelled at. They just know they don't like it. And that's it. It's as simple as that. Now, there's a lot of research about what it means for a child's brain development when they're raised in an environment where their developing amygdala is overstimulated due to fear response to being yelled at all the time. Let's just say from that research, it's not a very good thing for children to have to deal with. According to the book, Why Therapy Works, a child that gets yelled at and has a fear response every time they do something wrong, that leads to a much greater risk of them developing social anxiety and mental health issues as adults. That's really important to remember. I'm going to give you another quote from the book. Here's another one of my favourites. Misattuned parents, brutal social systems, war and prejudice can have a tremendous impact on early brain development. For most of us, these memories remain forever inaccessible to conscious consideration or modification. We mature into self-awareness years later, having been programmed by early experiences with feelings, perceptions and beliefs that we automatically assume to be true. In the absence of an ability to consciously connect our feelings and thoughts to past experiences, our negative feelings and behaviours seem to arise without cause from within. We are left to make sense of our confusion, fear and pain with negative attributions about ourselves and the world based on biased and inadequate information. That all comes from being yelled at a lot and having a fear response every time they did something wrong as a child. My goodness. To finish off the quote, as adolescents and adults, we seek therapy because we find ourselves unable to form meaningful relationships, manage our emotions, or feel worthy of love. That's because of their parents? Wow. It's of course a reality that whatever occurs to us and how we're raised as children leads to what type of person we are going to be when we become an adult. Of course it will. So a parent, a caregiver, a big brother, big sister, cousin, auntie, uncle, great-grandparent, grandparent, whatever. Anyone that has some responsibility for raising children, the choices we make are so vitally important when it comes to the emotions that our children throw at you. We are the ones that get to control the response. We are the ones that have the responsibility to provide a learning response, or a coaching response, an empathetic response, or a developmental response. An adult's response to emotions matters so much. And look, one more thing. It's not just the biggest of emotions that we're talking about here, or the negative emotions. Okay? It's all emotions. What if your child is feeling happy, elated, excited, proud, playful, inquisitive, sensitive? All right? Or the opposite. What if they're feeling inadequate, overwhelmed, helpless, nervous, rejected, let down, threatened, jealous, ridiculed? There's so many emotions that we go through as humans. Our response to all of those emotions matter as well. We matter to all of their emotions. It's like recognition. When a child does something fantastic, if the recognition response that we provide isn't adequate for them, they will also remember that. Or if you don't say anything at all, that's actually worse than that's actually worse than a negative response, because they don't think that their parents care about them and appreciate the great things that they've done. That is also equally as damaging as a negative response to failure. It's ridiculous. So thanks for listening today. It's been amazing. Just a quick wrap up. So the 5 hot principles being remastered for parenting. Okay, mistakes are normal. Blame and criticism fixes nothing. Environment drives behaviour. Learning and improving is vital. And an adult's response to emotions matters. What do you think? Please let me know what you think. Please write down something in the comments. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know if you have any questions. I'll be more than happy to help answer them. I am no expert by any means when it comes to raising children. My only experience is raising my own 3 children that I have. For info, I've got 2 older children, they're in their 20s, and I've got a new 5-year-old. And like I said at the beginning, I've got another one just on the way. Okay, so soon to be a father of 4. That is my experience, raising 4 kids in different ways, shapes and forms. It's been fantastic. I've loved every bit of it, okay, for the bit that I've been able to do. Okay, that is my experience. But like I said, if you've got any questions, let's talk about them. I'd love to start the conversation. Okay. Please do all the normal things as well. Subscribe, add a like, whatever it is that you'd like to do. Just in conclusion, parenting is an adventure. It requires constant growth and just being adaptable to so many situations. It's incredible. By embracing these principles we talked about today in your parenting approach, you have the opportunity to create a nurturing and supportive environment. You get to foster your child's emotional, intellectual, social, and their social development. Okay, that's an opportunity that we have as parents, which is fantastic. It is such a responsibility, and it is so good to be able to do that right. There is no perfect parent. There's no perfect way, but by embracing these principles, you can definitely lay a strong foundation for your child's future success and well-being. All right, well-being being a very important one. Okay, so thanks very much for paying attention today. Thanks very much for listening. I'm David East from Crew Fusion. It's been emotional. See ya.